The Vancouver Canucks are going to have a very, very, very interesting offseason. Let me take a few minutes to explain why. Recently, I've been watching this team a lot more in the playoffs. Even though I live in Vancouver and they are my second team and I watch them all the time, I've been watching a lot of their, keyer players and, some not the main guys off the top two lines, but your bottom six, your that bottom two defending pairs, stuff like that. I've been looking at a lot more of the depth of Vancouver and taking a look at what they're going to have to do with free agency this year. We all know about the big ones within Toffoli being brought in. He's an unrestricted free agent. Tanev, Markstrom. We know about the big ones that we're hockey fans, but I want to take the time to talk about how this team could look differently if the Canucks choose not to sign a few depth guys who I think could have the potential to get even better off of this year's playoff run. And let me take a minute to explain why. Now, if we go over and take a look at the 2020 UFAs the Canucks are going to have on their roster, the list starts with some pretty big names. Tyler Toffoli, Chris Tanev, Jacob Markstrom. Those are all pretty big guys, but they're all not making that big of a contract. All their contracts actually are pretty solid. Toffoli at 4.6, Tanev at 4.45, and Markstrom at 3.6. Now, what does that mean for the Canucks? It means that they've had these guys on some good contracts, but now they're most likely going to have to get an increase, which is the big issue, because how much are these guys going to get an increase by, and how much is that going to affect the cap that they have? Because by cap space's calculation and everything with that cap friendly has told me, the Canucks are going to have upwards of $17 million going into the free agency next year. Now that seems like a lot of money, but aside from those three big guys they have to sign, I started this video talking about, the Canucks have a lot of good depth that they're going to have to really make some hard decisions on. Troy Stecher making 2.35 is unrestricted, who is a restricted free agent. Oscar Fattenberg, Jake Virtanen, Tyler Mott, and Adam Gaudette, all guys who are starting to get really good in the NHL, starting to develop really well, and starting to get that offensive side to the game, especially guys like Jake Virtanen and Adam Gaudette. Those guys could be huge for the development of the top six and bottom six of the Vancouver Canucks moving forward, so they're going to need to be signed. But let's take a look. Those guys I just mentioned, Troy Stecher, 2.35, Oscar Fattenberg, $850K, Virtanen at 1.25, Mott at 9.75, and Gaudette at $916,000. Now, what does that say? All those guys are guaranteed increases if they're coming back, because they've all outperformed their entry-level deals. So, just as a rough idea of what would happen to take to just sign all of these guys and still be okay under the cap-wise. So, if Tyler Toffoli was to come back on a contract and get something upwards to $6 million, I have him down at 4 years, but this is all just, hypothetical. This is just to show where the money could go and why it's going to be very difficult, and the Canucks have some hard choices to come, so bear with me. Toffoli at 4 years at $6 million, Tanev at 5 years, or 5 years at $3 million, or $5 million at 3 years, depending on how you want to look at it in that sense for Tanev. Either way, a lot of money. Let's go $5 million. Markstrom making $6 million for 2 years, and then that just leaves Troy Stecher not coming back, Oscar Fattenberg not coming back, Virtanen at $3 million for 2 years, Mott at 1 year for 1.5, and Gaudette at 2x2. Now, if all those guys are to get those type of contracts, and we don't sign Stecher and Fattenberg, that will make the Canucks cap space go from $17,000 to $16.5, which means they only have $500,000 to sign players. And what does that mean for the team? Well, if we look into the free agents after next year, we're going to have some big names we're going to have to deal with. Guys like, I don't know, Elias Pettersson, maybe, Brock Besser. These guys are going to need money. Now, Brock Besser, not so much. He just got his contract at $5.875 and is signed until 2021, 2022. That's fine there, but we have to look at the other guys that have to be signed, right? Quinn Hughes is going to need a contract in a few years. How much money is he going to command? Yeah, there's Myers making the money at $6 million, but what are you going to have to do when you need to pay other guys? And that's what the Canucks are in the situation right now. Louis Eriksson is taking up way too much money. Yeah, JT Miller's signed, but what are you going to have to do when you lose other guys on your team? And yeah, they've got money invested in Jay Beagle, Roussel, Furland. All these are issues that the Canucks are going to have to deal with. And that's why I took the time to list off the hypothetical, signings and cap spaces with the Canucks for next season. Not with the cap space, that's not hypothetical, that's real. But with the players getting signed. Because that's exactly what the Canucks need to realize. They need to take a hard look at what type of players they think can improve, get better off of this year's playoff run, and what players have shown what they are, and that they can get rid of and find other guys to improve, or just do the same that are cheaper. And that's what the Canucks are really going to have to do. Realistically, the only people I had them not signing were Stecher and Fattenberg, but we have to really take a quick look at Canucks fans. Does Tyler Mott honestly get a small contract? I think maybe he does. But what about guys like Jake Virtanen and Adam Gaudette? Do they take bridge-year deals at $2 million, $3 million roughly, or do they want longer-term contracts because now they're actually guys who can put up decent points? It's all up in the air right now, and that's what makes the Canucks such an interesting situation. I look at the Winnipeg Jets, a team with similar cap space, but do not have the same type of guys expiring, but they want to go out and sign players and build a team to compete. The Canucks, on the other hand, are right in the heat, getting ready to compete with a young roster, and now they have to make all these big decisions on what they're going to have to do with the future. Do they keep Tanev Toffoli at $6 million? Do they keep Tanev? Do they keep Markstrom? Not only to get into Markstrom, do we talk about the fact that has Demko started to steal Markstrom's job because of the last 2 playoff games? When do we get into that conversation? Do we fully commit to Jacob Markstrom, or do we fully commit to Thatcher Demko, and do we go and sign a backup to help mentor him and play, or do we put all this money in Markstrom for a few years? The Canucks have a lot of stuff to do. Benning has a lot of things he's going to have to realize, and overall, I think the Canucks actually are in a position where they could really, really lose some key guys. If you've been watching the Canucks this year, Tyler Mott in this year's playoffs run has been their best penalty killer by far. Every time he hits the ice, he's got so much hustle, a lot of really good pressure he puts on the offense, and he just has a good overall, kind of like, I call him like a bee, like the wasp. He's a pest. He's always out there doing everything you need to do to win a hockey game, and he's doing it right. He's a very good, young, up-and-coming player who fits that mold of a bottom-six guy to a T. He's perfect for the Canucks, but do they bring him back? Does he want more money? That's the type of stuff the Canucks are going to have to realize. Do they lose him? Adam Gaudette, Jacob Virtanen, what do they do? Stetcher, on the other hand, I don't have them bringing back Stetcher, but I've actually been a big fan of Stetcher's game in the playoffs so far, and I bet a lot of other Canucks fans have been impressed with Stetcher so far in the playoffs as well. So, what do we do? Who do we bring back? Personally, if you ask me, and I'm the Canucks management, and I take a real hard look at the big 3 people, that being Tyler Toffoli, Chris Tanev, and Jacob Markstrom, and the potential increases in pay that they're going to be getting in their salaries, I really have to take a look and question whether or not Chris Tanev is worth bringing back at an inflated race, because right now he's making 4.45. Now, is he going to go up that much? I don't know. And is his play going to go up anymore? No. If anything, he's going to decline. So if even Tanev wants an increase to $5 million, you're going to be paying a guy a little bit more money than you already have been for the last few years on a declining contract, on a declining rate because of his age and play and so far, and not to mention the injury problems that he's had. I love Chris Tanev, and I always will as a Canuck, but overall, when I look compared to guys like Tyler Toffoli and Jacob Markstrom, and even guys like Troy Stetcher, I think Troy Stetcher could be a better plug and fill-in for a guy like Chris Tanev potentially. Not because Chris Tanev's a bad player, but just because the Canucks are really going to be in a cap crunch situation, and do they want to spend and give a guy a raise of $500,000 for a guy who's going to be just declining and has already been with the team for a long time? See, I don't know if they do that, because they really have to look at their cap and really manage it, because like I told you, if they were to go out and sign every player on this list, minus Stetcher and Fattenberg, for these low contracts that are pretty bargain for them, if you ask me, they're going to be left with 16.5. That's how much they're going to be spending out of the $17 million they have. That's a lot of money to spend on just old depth guys and a few top 6 talent and a goaltender and a defenseman, if you have to ask me. Do I think this is a roster that can win a cup? I think they have potential, but I still think they need a few more pieces, and I don't think committing to all of these pieces right here is going to be the best. If you ask me and you ask most Canuck fans, I think letting either Markstrom or Tanev go is going to have to be the hard choice. I think you keep Tyler Toffoli because of how deadly he makes your top 6. Adding him and JT Miller with already guys like Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, and Bo Horvat is becoming one of the most deadly top 6 forwards groups in the league, and I think you have to keep him just because of the chemistry he's shown, and also because he is older. He is already on a contract making 4.6, so if you have to give a guy a little raise who's probably going to be wanting a bridge deal to try to compete, Tyler Toffoli is the perfect winger to give it to. Overall, I think the Canucks are going to be, like I said, a team that has a lot of work to do. Do I think they're going to be back and competing next year? Honestly, I do, because I really like the core and I really like what they're building. But they have some big decisions to make. Do they go out and keep guys like Chris Tanev? Do they get rid of Markstrom? Do they roll with Demko? Do they lose Stetcher and sign some other young D? Do they bring in some guys from their system? Is Oliu Levy a guy who starts to get really heard about with his name, and is a guy who makes a team out of training camp next year and takes a spot of Troy Stetcher, or takes a guy like Chris Tanev even in his spot in the roster? Do we see that? Do we see that type of change with the youth? I don't know, and I'm not 100% sure. I think the Canucks are going to really want to keep some of these older guys to mesh with the youth that are already on the roster, but that's just me. Let me know your comments in the comment section down below, Canucks Canucks fans and hockey fans in general. What do you think the Canucks do this offseason? Do you think they trade a bunch of guys? Do you think they sign everybody here? Do you think they ride with what they have? Do you think they try to do a bunch of completely different things? Do they flip the script and go out and get completely new players? Let me know your thoughts on what you want to see them do in the comment section down below. Without any further ado, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching the video. Like I said, comments down your thoughts in the comment section down below. And also, if you're brand new to the channel and you enjoyed the video, definitely consider dropping a subscription. It would mean the world to me. We're on that road to 200 subs. And thank you so much for all the support. But without any further ado, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out, take care, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.